Lucifer controlled Tyre. He's the king. In Ezekiel 28, the actual king of Tyre, physical man, is called the prince of Tyre. And Lucifer's called the king of Tyre. That's how it works. But anyways, you were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and beauty. You were in Eden in the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering. It's very possible this Eden garden of God speaks of the earth in eternity past, but a little bit different kind of Eden. And I'm going to show you why. Look down at verse 14. You were the anointed cherub which covers. I establish you. You were in the holy mountain of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of the fiery stones. Well, that's fine for angels, but that's not fine for men. So it's very possible that earth, before the 7-day creation period, was the abode of angels. Interesting. But speculative, because we just know that much on it. That's what we have. That's where that comes from. So, moving, let's see. I have one quote here. God could have literally thrown cold water on the fiery stones of planet Earth. Okay? Whatever the rebellion took place, the effects of it, we don't know. But the hint is it somehow had a fallout and the destruction of what was former Earth. Now, let's see, we did that already. Let's move along here. Okay. There's one more here. There's one more 7. How many are familiar with the 70 weeks of Daniel? Okay? Yeah. I'm not going to go into it all. If you want to read up on it, God Questions is a website, and they give you their framework curve. They are premillennial and they are pre-tribulational, which we are. And so they ask the question, well, what are the 70 weeks of Daniel? When you get to the end of the article, they say, by the way, this is the premillennial, pre-tribulational view. They tell you where they're coming from. They do a very well of explaining, but 70 weeks is like God's clock of what things are going to happen in prophecy. And it's divided into different things. Now, in the Hebrew, instead of saying 70 weeks, you would actually say 77s. So God keeps track of things in groups of 7. It's an organizational number. It's oddly used for judgment. It's that for which is perfect and complete. But it's a dominant theme. And we see it in the scriptures here. Let me see. Oh. I'm not going to go into this now. I'm going to leave this. How much time I got left? I have a few minutes left. Okay. I'm going to switch topics completely. Those are the 7s that I could see in the scriptures having to do with judgment, and the judgment having a purpose of then a reformation, bringing to repentance, bringing something in new after the judgment. So from there, I'm going to go to a theme that's in, let me close this. If you have a Bible, turn to Isaiah 58. I'll cover this. We want to cover not just the major things, but some of the other things in Isaiah. Now I'm turning to Matthew first, because this is Jesus' commentary on it. Isaiah 58 contains the full mention of God's teaching on properly fasting and praying before God. No place else is it covered more thoroughly or carefully than Isaiah 58. So because it's the full mention of fasting, we want to cover it in this class. It's a minor reference. He goes, now Jesus will mention it. Jesus gives us a couple things to remember when we fast, but then you got to go back to Isaiah 58, which we will do. Moreover, in Matthew 6:16 through 18, moreover, when you fast, do not be as the hypocrites, with a sad countenance. They disfigure their faces, that they may appear to men to be fasting. Or surely I say that they have the reward. People think you're religious and weird. That's your reward. By the way, if you let people know you're fasting, they think you're religious and weird. It's not a good thing. It gets people weird. Anyways, but you When you fast, anoint your head, wash your face, so that you do not appear to men to be fasting, but to your Father who is in the secret place. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. Fast in secret, openly rewarded. He does not command us to fast here. He assumes that we will do it. He says, moreover, when you fast. He assumed it. There's a balance here. If you get too crazy with fasting, you feel like you can't get your prayers answered unless you fast. Stupidity. That's not the point. But we're going to go back to Isaiah 58. There are special promises for fasting. When I want those promises, well, if there's special promises for fasting, let's do it and get those promises. Okay? And by the way, the fast does not have to be particularly long, and that's important. Now, I'm going to move back here and we'll look at Isaiah 58 on this thing. And I'd ask you to read it over because it's pretty clear. You don't really need a commentary per se to read it. You can just see it. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to start, you're not there, but I want to start with Isaiah 1:15. When you spread out your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Even though you make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood. Wash yourselves. Make yourselves clean. Put away the evil of your doings. This is in Isaiah 51. So in Isaiah 51, he says, when you pray, I'm not listening. Isaiah 58 gives us an indication of some of the things they were doing while they were praying and why their prayers were not getting heard. So he starts with this idea in Isaiah 1. You're praying, but something wrong and I won't listen to you. Isaiah 58 is going to show you one of those things going on. Here's what's happening. And like chapter 1 in Isaiah, cry aloud, spare not, lift up the voice like a trumpet, tell my people their transgression, the house of Jacob their sins. And what's it say about them? Yet they seek me daily, delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness, that did not forsake the ordinance of their God. They ask of me the ordinance of justice. They take delight in approaching to God. This is strange. There are people of prayer, but their prayers are not being heard. Isaiah 58 gives us an idea why this was so. In verse 3, why have you fasted, they say, and you have not seen? Why have we afflicted our souls, and you take no notice? They figured something out. We're fasting, we're praying, but he's not listening, and he's not answering. Why? And they ask this question. And Isaiah will answer it. It says, first of all, in the day of your fast you find pleasure and exploit all your laborers. I'm supposed to fast, so I won't eat today. What do I feel like doing today? Well, there's a ball game on. I think I'll watch the ball game. Well, I got to get something fixed. I'll take the car for repairs today. I got a list of things to do today, but God, I'm fasting. Well, that's not the object of a fast. The idea of a fast is because of the special promises for your answered prayers when you fast, is during that day, instead of being busy doing everything else, you're busy doing what, folks? Praying. This is a time of prayer. This is a time to draw near to God. So, first of all, they were defeating the purpose of they were busy doing their own thing instead of drawing near to God and praying. Now, I'm fasting, you should be listening. You're not paying any attention to me, though. This is what he was saying to them. They had learned to do this by rote. They were supposed to do this. Their heart was not in it. They were not approaching God. So he mentions it. In fact, in the day of your fast, you find pleasure and exploit all your laborers. When you don't eat, there is a natural tendency to get cranky and dump on people. And what he's saying is, when you fast, don't do this. Because if you mistreat your brother, I'm not going to hear your prayers. That's what he's saying. So when you fast, one of the things you want to do is, I would say, don't knock yourself out on that day, because you'll probably get cranky. And, God is love, and, if you don't love your brother who you can see, how do you love God who you can't see? You get in trouble. You're defeating your fast. So pick a day where you have some time to pray. And you have some time to draw near, and you don't get yourself so whipped out that you start getting cranky and unloading on people. This is noticing. Oh, by the way, when you fast, your body starts detoxing. And you may get a headache from it. Now, I have a little trick I learned on this from reading websites on fasting. I have this clay powder I take. And literally, the detox is good. It's actually toxins are coming out of your body when you're fasting, but they get in your bloodstream and you're like, you may not feel too good. I take a glass, stir in the clay, lousy stuff, but I don't get a headache. It actually, the clay sucks up the toxins, which is part of the benzo. So if you want some, I have a big jar like this that I don't hardly use. So I'll give you some clay if you want to fast without the headache. There's something to it. And it's crazy, but it's working. Oh, by the way, research shows that people who eat a third less food live 20% longer.
Let's go.
They've tested it on everything from insects to mammals to humans. So they're, and we see it in the scriptures. Moses went on 40-day fast. How long did he live, folks? 120. And he was so healthy at 120, he walked up on the mountain to die. You know how many 120-year-olds can walk up on the mountain to die? They wouldn't make it halfway up. And then there's Anna, remember, holding the Christ child? You calculate, she had to be 106 or 107 years old. She gave herself to fasting and prayer in the temple. Okay, so it can health benefits if you do it right. Excessively, not recommended. Okay? A sunrise to sunset fast could be just fine before the Lord, especially if you take some time. Instead of lunch, I had some time to pray. Instead of dinner, I had some time to pray. Or a 24-hour fast. And if you say, well, I don't know, eat dinner, then eat dinner the next night, in between take some time to pray, you just had a 24-hour fast. Yet you ate something in each of those days so you didn't collapse. This is good. Okay, this is, you know, what practical wisdom for you. Now, we may have to go on with this. So, and exploit all your labors. Indeed, you fast for strife and debate. You're a crank when you fast. And you strike with the fist of wickedness. You will not fast as you do this day to make your voice heard on high. Is it a fast that I have chosen? And he asks us a question. A day for a man to afflict his soul? Is it to bow down his head like a boy? Oh, I'm suffering, God. Oh, God. Oh, please. No, that's not the purpose. It's not what I want here. You're not going to die if you miss a meal, folks. Okay? So, and to spread out sackcloth and ashes. Here's the question. Would you call this a fast and an acceptable day to the Lord? The day is unacceptable, and so are your prayers. So first he tells us how not to do it. Jesus added to that Matthew 6, don't let people know you're fasting. Fast in secret, openly rewarded. We had a guy who used to do prison ministry, and often he'd fast and pray before he went into a prison and minister. And he was fasting and praying for a minister to be released, and he was a butcher. And he's working behind a counter in a price chopper kind of place, and he's going away and cut meat and throw something in his mouth. He goes, oh, spits it out. So I wonder what the customer's thought. You know, it was kind of funny, but you know, I want the promise of God, not this stupid piece of meat. Okay, now I want to show you some of those promises. I'm gonna have to skip to it today. Yeah, I am. I'll do this for you. Okay. 2 Peter 1:4, by which have been given exceeding great and precious promises. Some of those precious promises are promises specifically to prayer and fasting. And if God gives me a precious promise, I want the promise. This is how we go after God. We go after His promises. And that's why it says the violent, the kingdom of God suffers violence, and violent men take it by force. The Spirit says, God has promised me, I want it. What's my end of the deal? Let's go. Okay? So come on, I got a promise for you. Go after the promise and I'll bless it. This is the attitude, the proper attitude of a saint. That through these, you may be partakers of the divine nature. When you see a promise in the Bible and you go after the promise, that's how you partake of the divine nature. That's how you put on Christ. How do I put on Christ? Go after the promises. Whether they be on any other subject. You see a promise of God, you go after it, you're also putting on, partaking of the divine nature. So, time now. This is interesting. Is this not the fast that I have chosen? To loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, to let the oppressed go free. Anybody know someone who's in an oppressive situation? Yeah. This is a promise for it. He says, this is why I want you to pray and fast. Someone's in serious trouble here. There's a bondage here. There's suffering here. The devil has a stronghold here. Fast and pray and go after it. That's what he wants us to do with the fast. To let the oppressed free, to break every yoke. That's a powerful promise. Is not this to share your bread with the hungry, and that you bring to your house the poor who are cast down? It's interesting. Instead of crying about not eating, go feed someone else. He actually said that. He wants you to be other-minded while you're fasting, not occupied with your own suffering. Okay? And God will give you grace to do this. If you do this on any kind of a regular basis, you will stop getting hungry when you're fasting. It's a weird thing. Your body just turns it off. Oh, you're fasting now, turn that off. You didn't, now, I'm not talking about a long fast, but, and the other thing, if you stay in the Word, you'll be less hungry. You feast on the Word, it has an effect on you. Okay? Try it, see if it works for you. And that you bring to your house the poor who are cast out, when you see the naked, that you cover him, and not hide yourself from your own flesh. Now, I haven't read here a list of more promises, and I'll close with it. Then your light shall break forth like the morning. Your healing shall spring forth speedily. There's a promise of healing through fasting here. It's there. And your righteousness shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. It's a promise of quick answers to prayers. How many like fast answers to prayers? Yeah. That's what he says. When you call, I'll answer. Boom. Here goes. Happens. You shall cry, and he shall say, here I am. Okay. Now, there's more on this. You can read through. I will go back into this next time. But the idea isn't, well, I have to do this to be religious. No. I want the promise of God, and there are promises here. Let's go. Let's go for it. He hasn't made a promise. Let's take God up on it. Let's not ignore Isaiah 58. In the balance, you're a child of God. Pray without what? Ceasing. You don't have to fast to be heard by God. But if we have special promises for special situations, let's take God up on it. Amen?
Amen.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Next week, those would take home midterms. Turn them in.